His face is painted white. The grease paint catches the pale outdoor light in a way that makes him look like he belongs to two worlds at once. The one just beyond the canvas tent, full of laughter and strangers, and this one, which is quieter, smaller, and entirely his own. The crowd is waiting. The performance is still going on, and here, in the hollow minutes before he is needed again, he is doing something so ordinary it almost stops you cold. He is feeding his baby, in costume and white face, and with a wig and jester's clothes, because there isn't time, or perhaps energy, to be anyone other than the clown. And yet the hands around that small body are the hands of a father, and there is nothing theatrical about them. This painting was made in 1880. A writer later described it as full of humor, pathos, and a hint of tragedy. I think he undersold it. To understand what Ludwig Knaus was doing with imagery here, you have to understand what kind of painter he was, because he was not the kind you might expect to make something this quietly devastating. Knaus was born in Wiesbaden in 1829 and studied in Dusseldorf before moving to Paris in 1852, where his career took off almost immediately. His painting Morning After the Kermesse won the second gold medal at the Salon of 1853 and made him a celebrated name overnight. He went on to win the Grand Medal of Honor at the Paris Exposition of 1867. By the time he was appointed professor at the Royal Prussian Academy in Berlin, he was one of the most decorated genre painters in Europe. He made his name painting ordinary people, village festivals, children at play, old men in tavern light. There was warmth in his work, but also something underneath it that kept his best paintings from tipping into sentiment. He was, above all, an observer. He had a gift for the unguarded moment, and the traveling circus gave him something that village festivals could not. People who were always performing, which meant the moments when they stopped carried a completely different weight. Behind the scenes is what he found when he looked past the tent flap. The first thing that arrests you is the white of his face. It covers everything, his cheeks, his forehead, the skin of his neck, and it does something disorienting to the image. We have been trained since childhood to read that white face as a signal of comedy, of exaggeration, of performance. And so, the brain reaches for that reading and then finds nothing to support it. He is not performing. His expression carries something closer to concentration. He is attending to the child in his arms, and the costume has become irrelevant. It is present and conspicuous, but entirely beside the point. The baby is small, held in the crook of one arm, while his other hand guides a bottle toward its mouth, and there is nothing graceful or posed about the gesture. It has the look of something done many times before, on many different afternoons, the particular efficiency of a parent who has learned to manage this task with whatever light and space and energy happens to be available. You can feel the road in it, the accumulated days of doing exactly this, in exactly this costume, because the show must go on and children don't wait. Pull back from the two central figures and the rest of the painting begins to tell its own story. If you follow the eye upward and to the left through a gap in the canvas, you can see a tightrope walker performing against the open sky, a small figure balanced impossibly above the rooftops of the town, while down here, a few feet away, his colleague feeds an infant from a bottle. The performance and the private life exist in the same frame, separated by nothing more than a piece of canvas. On the floor in front of the clown, two girls sit in their own performance costumes, not yet old enough to go on, but already part of the act. They are simply waiting, the way children in working families learn to wait, with a patience that sits a little uneasily on small shoulders. To the right, a woman reclines against a trunk, her posture loose and unhurried, talking to a man in a top hat who leans toward her with the particular body language of someone who does not quite belong in this space. He is too well dressed and too upright. His presence introduces a note of unease into the scene, a reminder that this family's life is also a business, and that the world of money and arrangement is never entirely absent even here. Knaus has organized the foreground with the precision of a stage director. On the left side of the floor, a drum, weights, juggling balls, the props of the trade. On the right, kitchen utensils, household goods, the tools of ordinary domestic life. They are given equal space. And that, more than anything else in the composition, is the argument Knaus is making. These two worlds are not in conflict and are simply the same world. At the edges of the scene, children and dogs huddle near a small cook stove, close enough to feel the warmth, and a contemporary critic who saw the painting in 1880 wrote that the clown's supper, once the performance was over, consisted of a dish of potatoes being kept warm on that stove. The sole supper provided, as he put it, for these poor players after their exertions. What Knaus has captured here is not poverty exactly, though the setting is spare. It is something more precise and harder to name. The texture of a life in which the professional and the domestic are completely fused, where your colleagues are your family and your workplace is your home, and the boundary between the two simply does not exist. There is nowhere to go to stop being a circus performer because the circus is everywhere, including in the face your children see when they look up at you. Look again at how Knaus positions the clown's body. His back is straight, his attention is on the child. He has not collapsed into exhaustion, though you sense he has every right to. What you feel instead, and this is where Knaus's observational precision becomes something close to genius, is the particular kind of tiredness that does not get to show itself because there is still something that needs doing. He has spent the evening making strangers laugh. Now he is doing the work that no one buys a ticket to see, and he is doing it with the same focused attention, just stripped of everything theatrical. And if you look closely at the grease paint on his face, you can see where it has started to crack at the edges, around the jaw and the corners of the mouth, the way it does when the heat of a performance gives way to cooler air. He has not washed it off. He will not wash it off until the child is settled. That detail costs Knaus nothing to paint, and it tells you everything about the order of priorities in this man's life. By the late 19th century, the circus had become a major cultural industry across Europe and America. Touring shows were drawing enormous crowds, and the clown was one of the most recognizable popular figures of the age, appearing on posters and in illustrated newspapers across the continent. And almost none of that imagery showed the hour after when the tent empties out and the sawdust settles, and the man with the painted face sits down to feed his youngest. Painters from Watteau to Picasso had explored the melancholy clown before, but almost always as a meditation on the performer and the performance, the mask, the loneliness of the stage, the tragedy of the man behind the laugh. Knaus removes the stage entirely. His clown is not sad because he is a clown. He is simply human, and the costume is left to do all the work of the contrast on its own. When Behind the Scenes was completed, it was acquired by Dresden's Royal Collections in 1881 for the reported sum of £1,750, a serious price for the time. Critics praised its picturesque and romantic qualities. Then, slowly, it faded. Knaus aged, tastes shifted, and the painting settled into the long, quiet life of overlooked things. There is a bottle going cold in his hand. There is a child who needs feeding. There is a fire at the edge of the frame keeping the other children warm, and outside the tent, somewhere beyond the painted canvas, a tightrope walker is still performing above the rooftops, and the rest of the world is entirely unbothered by what happens down here. He never looks at us. He has no idea we are here. And somehow, after everything, that is the thing that stays.